Is there anything about maintaining a reasonably playable guitar that's worse than changing strings?
Good question. That's worse than changing strings? Not really. I just kind of leave my, well, I'll tell you what I do. I feel very great empathy with my guitars because I like like me, they're under a lot of pressure. I mean, just the pressure of the strings on the neck. I worry. I wake up in the middle of the night and I think about the guitars in my closet and on my wall and all of them in their cases, feeling this incredible pressure. And so often, sometimes I act on this in several ways. If I'm not going to be playing a guitar for a while, I loosen the strings. I don't know if this actually does any good, but I think it does. I feel less pressure as a result. Also, something I've learned, and this is useful for all of you who are flying on airplanes. I don't fight with the airline people anymore. I buy a good case. I check my guitar. I've had very good luck with it so far. That's wood. And I what I do is I loosen the strings completely because I've had so many guitars necks break because that's what happens when they put them in those cold airline storage things. The necks break. So beyond that, I'm probably the worst person in the world to ask about maintaining guitars, because I forget who it was, but I think it was somebody in a guitar store in Williamsburg once said it's an important moment in the life of every New York person who works in a store selling vintage guitars to have Marc Ribot buy a beautiful vintage instrument and then destroy it. So I'm not really known for
Your maintenance?
my maintenance skills. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I actually, having worked with Arto Lindsay a couple times, his guitar strings I found fascinating because the tension was just all feel for him. It was not a note that was being tuned to. It was all how it felt to him, which I thought was pretty fascinating.
That's interesting because there's a big, that's also interesting because there's a discrepancy. I mean, other people know guitar music based on how it sounds, but guitarists, of course, know guitar music based on how it feels, and they're not always the same.
No, they're not. Actually, when he
Um,
changed his strings, I was like, why are you changing the strings? They didn't break but he was like, no, the feel was no longer right. So he wanted to put on fresh strings and get the right
yeah.
tension for what was good to him.
I'm a huge fan of Arto's guitar playing and also of his methodology, his doing things, but his also, I mean, what you just described, changing the strings because of how they feel, but also tuning the strings based on entirely, how they sound at the moment, not conforming to any pre-existing idea of what a guitar should be tuned to.